Hi everyone, my name is Christine Lloyd and I am applying for the Wauwikis Road School Assistant Principal position. I'm super excited about the goals of this new plan and what this could mean for our elementary schools here in Worcester Public Schools. So as you can see, the sun is out. That is why I am outside on this Saturday morning. I chose the option for a digital portfolio. So what we're going to do is I'm going to walk through some documents with you and explain how I feel they represent some of the skills that you put out in the application. The document here that I'll send this with will have a link to this presentation as well as a link to all of the documents that I'm going to show you and then those responsibilities that I'm highlighting underneath. So let's get started, all right? The first thing I'm going to start with is this document here. And so you'll see this document here is actually our Office of Community and Professional Learning, which is the office that I belong to under my Science and Engineering Liaison role. This was our year-long plan. And what I want you to see is at the beginning, we all started with one goal, right? So we had one goal that we had to focus on. And then each of us had to then think about the full year and say, based on this one goal, like the mission or vision for our school, which has been laid out for Wauwikis as far as where we want to go as a technology-based program and a project-based school, we then had to make a full year plan for each of our resources that we would provide to teachers and then what that looks like. And so this is the format that I came up with that we adopted through the office. And the idea is that we'll have an indicator. We agreed on those through consensus. And then I thought about having these sub goals underneath. Where am I in my curriculum development plan? And then November, January, May, what does that look like? What are the things that I'm trying to finish within each of those time spans and just bullet it out in big picture. You can see as I go through the months, if I'm highlighting it here or putting it in a different color, what I'm telling myself is, hey, you're not quite there yet. You need to come back. What happened? This might be something that we have to look at again for next year. And it really helps with that long-term planning process. From the larger district plan, we go ahead and move into what I call the science plan. And so what I do is I give my coaches, my department heads, this big picture. And so what this big picture does is it says, here is where I am looking to pull your teachers from classes. Here is what we're going to focus on, the grade level, the time, right, to be determined location. My plan for elementary is always to have 2 units per year per grade level to be able to focus on our 5E, our claim, evidence, and reasoning, and our science practices. And then here again, they'll have where can I find resources and thinking about our bigger district goals of UDL and CRP. This is what our secondary schools professional learning plan looks like. You can see still for the first half of the year, right? Who am I looking for? What are the dates? And then what are their topics as well? So trying to stay focused. What I think this does is it allows us to have one clear focus as a district, being my position as a district liaison, for effective classroom techniques. And that's that first bullet that's in the portfolio page that you have. So effective classroom techniques for science that we focused on were 2 science practices, mathematical thinking, developing and using models. And you'll see that all of the PD this year was really focused around those 2 skills, as well as all of the resources that we brought in, including gizmos, Pogles, data nuggets, NSTA probes, things of that nature. Really getting students to think mathematically, not computational, right? But really thinking mathematically, analyzing data, not necessarily computing the information, as well as being able to develop and use models vertically and horizontally. So now what we do is let's take a look at what one of these PDs might actually look like. So in the elementary school, what we're going to do is we really focused on the 5E method. So you can see all of my elementary schools are focused on a literacy component, which are my stories. They have the 5E lesson plan, which is classroom techniques, effective, research-based, and CER writing, as writing was one of our focuses as well here in Worcester Public Schools this year. And again, research-based, it's all about scientific writing, which is where these came from. So I'll walk you through. We always start with a standard, letting the teachers know what quarter we're in, and then the title of the text we're going to be using. And then I go ahead and I share these documents with them. These documents are provided to all Worcester Public Schools teachers, pre-K through 12, for all of our science content areas. And what I've done is broken down for them the vocabulary, the objectives from the standard itself, essential questions and practice standards. It does mirror Atlas, and given them the time frame below. Here's the standard written out for them. And again, it was also looking at fourth grade together. We're always trying to multitask with our teachers. We know how hard it is to find coverage. Since we're focused on 5E, we have each of them laid out, as well as the 5E instructional model. And then I'm not going to go through with you, but each of these would then have the engage, or portions of the 5E. So engage, explore, explain, extend, evaluate. So why, right? Why 5E? Again, support and monitoring effective classroom techniques. So this is supporting effective classroom techniques because it's going to walk teachers through how to lesson plan using this lens. And so the way I run my PDs is that we do I do, you do, and then together we plan. And so what that looks like is that I'm the teacher and my participants are the students. And my participants really appreciate that they're actually going to go through each of the activities that I am suggesting they do with class as a student. So they're going to see as a student what this looks like. That helps them plan for barriers that their students might have, so that all of the students in their class are going to be able to access it. After I am the teacher and they are the student, we always have at least 5 to 6 minutes to stop and reflect and talk with each other. What can I do to support my students who are multilanguage learners? What can I do to enhance this lesson to support my students who have a special ed plan or an IEP plan? What can I do to support my students who are going to have some attention issues, right? That they're going to need some more redirection. What can I do to make sure that my students are able to access this content, everybody in my room? And so what's powerful about this is that you have teachers from across the district in the same grade level having those conversations with each other. So again, that is all about supporting effective classroom techniques, as well as organizing and implementing the lessons themselves, because they're seeing how to do that. We also talk about the fact that it's not the same for every classroom, right? It's going to look different for every classroom, and that you as the professional, as the educator, are going to make those decisions, and these are the guidelines that you make those decisions through. So you can see here's explain and here's extend. Now, one of the things we talk a lot about in all of my 5E PDs, if we think about effective classroom techniques, is that extend is often left behind, and it's really important that we don't. An extend is not an extension or an extra lesson, right? An extension or an extend is made to make connections outside of the classroom. And so really extend is about making connections so the students can go home and see the science and see the math and see the literacy in their own lives. And if they can make connections to what we are teaching them outside of our walls, outside of our schools, then it's going to stick. They're going to have more of a connection to it. They're going to own it and really take ownership of their own learning, because they know that it's not just what I'm learning in school, right? The age-old question, when am I going to use this? So the extension is about taking it out into to their own lives. And I really think that this program that Wahwekas is proposing about project-based learning is really going to help students make those extensions and make those connections, right? And that's what we want, to be able to make that authentic learning experience for our students. And then, of course, evaluate with our writing and our CER. So again, why am I showing you this? Because I really think that this is a good example of supporting teachers in effective classroom techniques, being project-based learning, the 5E method, and CER writing. Those are the research-based techniques, and this is one example of how I'm supporting teachers in doing that. So then how do I monitor them, and how do I make sure that it's actually enhancing the learning process? So one thing I want to do is show you, this is a review, just a quick snippet of some of the reflections that teachers have given me in anonymous surveys at the end. So all of my surveys are anonymous. It's all about authentic feedback for me. I have to be able to grow in my own practice just as teachers do. And so you can see here are just 5 snippets of what they liked about the process. And one of the things that I always hear is that teachers appreciate being able to do it as the student and taking the time to really walk through the lesson, seeing what it feels like, seeing what the pacing feels like, and then being able to make it their own when they go back to their classrooms. How am I monitoring? And then you'll see that it does enhance the learning through these statements. How am I monitoring? Well, one way I monitor is through simple Google Sheets, right? How many schools are attending each of the sessions? How many teachers total from each school attended during the first quarter? So this is the first quarter of this year, and I can see who are my schools that are participating, in what grade levels are they participating, and how many staff total. And then at the bottom, I can go ahead and say, okay, which grade levels are having the most participants here? And then reaching out to those schools, maybe who have zeros, and saying, hey, what can I do to support this? That will look different on a school based, but the idea is the same. Who is coming? Who is using these strategies in their classroom? And who needs maybe support or something else? Also, all of my sessions are followed up with an email. And the email has on it, obviously a thank you, what we did, and then the slide deck, as well as what you should be looking for, right? So that the administrators who weren't there and the coaches who weren't there can say, okay, I'm sending my teacher to this PD. What should I be looking for when they come back? So when I go into their classrooms, what are the lessons and the activities and the classroom techniques that I should be looking for? So this is how we're monitoring this. And again, here's another example of how this is happening. Teachers appreciate this. You can say they'll respond here and here. Principals responding, saying, right, they're looking at the resources and they know that it's something that we want to use. So those are the items that I just went through are really highlighting this here. Responsible for supporting and monitoring staff to use effective classroom techniques which enhance the learning process. Now what I want to look at is this one here, which is a little different because it talks about educational programs. Everything I just showed you was teacher created by myself, by my predecessor, Kathy Berube, Jeff Glick, as well as teachers within the district. These are not from a pre-purchased program. The ones I'm about to show you are. And so we do have some programs in our elementary schools that are programs. And one of them is Engineering is Elementary. So one of the things we want to remember about programs is that they sometimes have a lot in them, and our teachers are not necessarily going to be able to put every little piece in there. And as a liaison or as an assistant principal or leader of Wawikis, it would be my responsibility to say, okay, what are the pieces that we need to highlight from this program that are going to be able to enhance our students' learning in front of us? And how do I break that down for teachers? How do we make those decisions on consensus? And then kind of by authority or direct if we have a focus. So Engineering is Elementary is a very large program. One of the new ones we had this year is magnets. Here, again, you'll see this common theme. I'm still bringing it back to our scope and sequence here in Worcester. And then what I do for teachers is I say, okay, the facilitator notes are going to be in white. The student-facing slides are going to be in blue. Still, I'm the teacher, you're the student. We walk through it together. And then what I do is that I take all of the directions from the program and I put them on a green slide and I highlight for teachers, these are the ones we actually used today. We didn't do everything in this unit. We focused on these. You can still choose to do others, thinking about your own time. And so here's how they get onto their platform, walking them through the platform or the program, making sure they understand how to do that. And then let's take a look at what this might look like. So you can see blue. These are going to be our student-facing slides. This is how we're starting our learning, phenomena-based learning in science, just like in 5E, one of our great effective techniques, research-based. So you can see here I'm saying prep adventure number 1, which is what the program is subscribing here. I am telling teachers, we skipped this. We did an anchoring phenomena instead because we want to use phenomena-based learning in our science classrooms. So we are actually going to take out that and we're going to put in our phenomena. Again, here, student faced, lesson 1. We did the Intro to Japan map. What we did not do is browse the story, right? In our PD, we didn't do that. Guiding them through what we're missing. Here are the pages in their program that we're referring to. And then we look at the rubric and say, okay, here's the rubric they provide. These are the 2 things that we're focusing on. And I go through each of the different units with that. What this allows teachers to do is see how the pieces that they can find in their program, their educational programs, can be used with effective classroom techniques, but that they don't have to do each little piece. And that's really important because we don't necessarily have the time to be able to do every little piece of a program. We have to be able to make those educational professional decisions on what's going to have the most impact for our students in front of us. And again, here are some different ways in which I would say that these are organized, right? So I'm organizing the professional learning and the educational programs for them and then implementing them. So where is the evidence of that it's conducive to a positive learning environment? Take a look at these pictures. These are students, 3rd grade, our first year with this program. You can see the learning on their faces, right? They're really thinking. They're thinking about what they're doing. That is a positive learning environment. Sharing the materials, thinking about what's happening, watching the learning happen. Here are some more. Also with the magnets, they are curious. They want to know why this ping pong ball is moving. They've got their handouts ready. They're going to be able to record their learning. This is a positive learning environment. The teachers have experienced this themselves. They understand what's about to happen, and they can then pass this on to their kids. Here is a 5th grade one, so our water filter one. Again, we broke it down. We talked about what it would look like in the classroom, all the different things we might have to change for our own classrooms. It's organized, the teachers are ready with the appropriate materials, and that allows our students to be more engaged in the activity. So if I come back here, let's talk about these 3. 1, responsible for supporting and monitoring staff to use effective classroom techniques which enhance the learning process. Yes, I know that I can provide professional development and be able to support staff in using effective classroom techniques, not just in science, by the way. I also was a middle school and 5th grade math teacher. And so the workshop model in math is something that I have a lot of experience with. And as far as the ELA, we are getting a new program this year. And so I think my ability to look at educational programs and break them down and think about the pieces that are going to be effective will be able to allow me to support and monitor the staff and organizing and directing that as well. And of course, leaning on our experts like Amanda Taylor and others in our district who will be doing that work with us. And then finally, responsible for assisting in the professional development and evaluation of building personnel. I'm going to focus on professional development here. The evaluation piece I'll bring in the next video, portion of the video, excuse me. So I hope you can see here that I absolutely have the ability to provide professional development and have had great feedback from the programs that I have done. Let's move on to the next